Former President Jacob Zuma is giving testimony at the State Capture Commission inquiry in Parktown, Johannesburg. Zuma is expected to share his version relating to state capture allegations after several witnesses implicated him in wrongdoing. He says there have been attempts to assassinate his character.
When I received this report, had a discussion with my colleague Nhlanhla. We did not know what is the reason. We're very keen to hear why must Zuma's character be assassinated. I then used the knowledge we had to ask this question and get an answer. But to those who would be receiving the question and giving an answer, they should not know that this question comes from me. Because we had people in the intelligence, had a lot of networkings and networks, as well as people dealing with different things. So we sent the question. After a brief period, the answer came back. The answer was, the reason why we wanted to character assassinate the Zuma's character was because he has a lot of information that he holds. Among that type of information, as a chief of intelligence, there are spies that are infiltrated by us in his organization. Whom we want to nurture, that they grow within the structures of the ANC to a point that at some point they will have to lead the ANC. Now Zuma has information about these. We don't know when will he use his information to stop that process, that plan of theirs. And therefore they took a decision that Zuma must be removed from decision-making structures of the ANC. And that's why the character assassination began. That's the beginning of the process that has put me where I am today. There has been a drive to remove me from the scene. A wish that I should disappear. And I will explain where it comes from and why perhaps it is important that I deal with in this commission. And it arises out of perhaps my work in the ANC, and also because of who I am. This conspiracy against me has been stretched at all material times when there are things to be done or said. It has come in different forms, and that's why there are even people who say I've got a way of trying to dodge things in one form or the other. And I'm going to connect the dots over a decade that talk to this point and talk to why I'm here.
Well, for more on the state capture inquiry, we cross to our senior reporter, Mzwandile Mbeche, who's standing by for us. Mzwandile, former President Jacob Zuma doesn't believe that there was state capture. Just tell us your observations of this morning.
Oh, well, Nompu, we've quite heard a lot from the former president when he then gave his opening statement. It has taken about just under 2 hours, where he's basically been detailing what he calls the conspiracy that started long time ago. In fact, starting in the 90s, that wanted him out of office. So he's been detailing the events, really, that dealt with those matters. I mean, as you have heard yourself, Nompu. But when it comes to the issue of the state capture, he is basically saying the fact that it's characterized as state capture, in his view, it's incorrect, because when we talk about the state, we are basically referring to three arms of state, which is the judiciary, the National Assembly, and the executive, yes, which is which includes cabinet. So he's basically saying, if you then are using this characterization, you are basically saying this country is gone. This country is basically taken over completely. I think, in his view, to then characterize it as state capture so is incorrect. But he did perhaps qualify to say maybe because his understanding may be limited, because he may take things quite literally, Nompu.
Right. So what is going to happen now? Because it seemed as though he was just given the latitude to just talk for quite a long time. Are we going to get him interacting with the evidence leader?
What is going to happen now, Nompu, is that he will continue to say what he wants to say, particularly when we resume from the break. He is going to speak about the Guptas. I think that's at that point where the judge basically said maybe it's the right time to take the break. Remember, this commission really, the Guptas have been looming quite large around this state capture project. So, and the Guptas are known friends of former President Jacob Zuma. So I guess he knows that he has the responsibility to clarify his relationship. Yes, he's on record saying they are his friends, but given the kind of activities that they are alleged to have done, given the kind of influence that they are alleged to have had, given basically everything that is being said about them that is not really good, so he needs to be able to then come out and clarify that relationship. Yeah. And then after that, so we will then have the opportunity where the head of the legal commission, Advocate Paul Pretorius, will then ask some of the questions. Remember, Nompu, so many people who've come here, they've basically spoken about the Guptas and, of course, spoken about the president, or the former president.
Mzwandile, I'm going to let you go in a second because I know you're about to resume. But did the former president say anything about Mr. Ramatlhodi, who was a minister under his presidency? Apparently, he did refute some of the claims that he made.
Absolutely, Nompu. Remember, what basically the former president has been saying was to say there is this bigger plot, or there's this bigger conspiracy, which he says, unfortunately, many of his comrades fall into that trap, not knowing that they fall into the trap that was set a long time ago. When former Minister Ramatlhodi was here, he basically said at the NSC, they spoke about the issues that related to the Guptas, because they felt that the manner in which the country was being governed was more like auctioning the country. So he is saying that is incorrect. He says, if you come here and say I'm auctioning the country, did I auction, I mean, in his words, did I auction Table Mountain? did I auction Johannesburg? So he is basically saying these are the kinds of lies he wants to correct, which have been really in the public domain for the longest of times. So it would be very interesting, Nompu, as we have said, to hear what exactly he is saying about the Guptas as we resume. He did obviously touch on his family being hugely affected by all the allegations that are leveled against him, even mentioning two of his sons, Sadi and of course Duduzane, who have felt the wrath of the people of South Africa because they are related to him. So they effectively had to be out of their jobs.
All right, Mzwandile, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for that update. My colleague there, Mzwandile Mbeche, giving us an update on the state capture inquiry. Meanwhile, supporters of former President Jacob Zuma have gathered around the precinct of the Commission. For more on what's happening outside, we cross to our other reporter, Manqoba Mkunu, who is standing by for us in Parktown. Manqoba, what's the latest where you are?
Well, Nompu, certainly, as you can see in those visuals, the supporters slowly trickling in here at the Bitter Road Park, where they're supposed to gather to come and support the former president, who is currently giving testimony at the State Capture Commission, but of course not quite the large numbers as we had been expecting, as per that press release by the Radical Economic Transformation Forces, which had said that they're expecting about 38 buses to arrive here, as well as about 5,000 supporters to come in support of the former president. Of course, they've also said that those supporters will be bussed in from the different regions as far as KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, Western Cape and so forth, and 30 buses alone coming from Gauteng. But what we are seeing here is that they're slowly starting to trickle in. We can see members of the ANC, members of the ANC Women's League and some MKMVA members who have come out here to come and support the former president. I can tell you, Nompu, the stage is certainly set for the president to come and address those supporters after he finishes giving testimony at the commission today. But of course, let me speak to some of those who have come here from as far as KwaZulu-Natal. I did tell you earlier on that there were some of the buses that had arrived from KwaZulu-Natal of supporters who came here to come and support the president. Baba, let me start with you, your name and where you come from.
Igama lami nguWelani Sibongo Ngubane, ngiqhamuka KwaZulu-Natal, eMaritzburg under iMosmapeta region.
Mbovu, why are you here when coming all the way from KwaZulu-Natal?
Into engenze ukuthi ngize la eGoli or eGauteng province ingoba ngiyakholelwa ekutheni ubulungiswa abukho kwi-state capture lesi esiqhubekayo njengamanje ngoba kuliwa no former president uJacob Zuma ngoba he was trying to implement i-radical economic transformation, so kuliwa naye. So ngiyakholelwa ekutheni i-state capture kumele senze ubulungiswa sona ngoba lento iya sebelwa ngabodwana sabantu abamnyama thina sesilwa sodwa siqhathwa i-white monopoly capitalist.
All right, okay, Baba. Of course, saying that there is no justice here in the country, saying that the commission is merely targeting the former president, and then he hopes that by testifying here, there finally will be justice on the former president. We do understand that the proceedings have started, so we are going back to you in studio, Nompu.
Thanks very much, Manqoba. Let's go back to the